Shalom, shalom, people. We have another. Alrighty. Shalom, 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 shalom. Let me get ready to ping some of my brothers and sisters in here. Let's see here. It's going to be very impactful today, hopefully. So let's see here. Let's see that thing. Shalom, shalom. Let's see what we can get going on. Alrighty. This is another lesson, another impactful lesson, hopefully dealing with more garden ministries information and etc. I don't know why Clubhouse keep kicking me out, but all right. So what we're going to do today, y'all know that we take here at the Garden Ministries the Bible to be dealing with a fruitful and righteous mindset. So what I'm going to do today, I want to go to the beginning, right? It's an understanding that Satan has been defeated and etc. And now we live inside of the garden, or we're supposed to be living inside of the garden. Check out the lesson from yesterday to get more insightful, or last week, it depends on when you're looking at it, more insightful information about if we're in the kingdom or not, and etc. But today, tonight, what I'm going to concentrate on, I'm going to concentrate more on the things pertaining to Satan. All right, now, if we're looking at it from the ancient Near Eastern mindset, especially dealing with the Israelites and etc., we find out that they had different understandings about Satan. Whether we're looking at, let's say, the book of Enoch and etc., where Satan is really not even introduced, we find out about those spirits, those evil spirits in the book of Enoch. And those spirits are supposed to be the descendants of the watchers, or the angels, or the priests that came down and procreated with mankind. So that's their origin of evil spirits and etc. And then as time progresses, we find out that this Satan character, it goes from being like this meaning adversary to actually being a spiritual being itself, or himself. So that's pretty what's going on during the time when we reach the New Testament. There's an understanding out now amongst the community that there's a hierarchy dealing with these evil spirits and etc. And they have this Satan character, this main adversary that a lot of the information is speaking about. So once you go to more of the Christian literature, like the Ascension of Isaiah, we find out that Belial, or who represents Satan, he's thought to come from heaven, take bodily form as the mother killer, which is Nero, and wage war on the saints. So now we have an instance from that early documentation, the ascension of Isaiah, when we clearly see that they thought of the spiritual realm interacting with the physical realm. So they have this spiritual Belial guy, this character, coming down, taking human form inside of Nero and causing chaos and wreaking havoc on the church. So that's another thought process they have going on with how the spiritual works. There could be a spiritual entity that's being shown in flesh. So that's the background on how we understand how Satan works within that time period, because the ascension of Isaiah was written within that 1st and 2nd century. So it tells you how they viewed the spiritual realm working. So we finna actually go into how it works. Shalom to everybody on the panel. How you brothers doing?
Shalom, bro. Haymaker was gonna say shalom too.
It was all good because I know you like some of the brothers could be busy and etc. I just ask everyone please ping in.
Oh man, yeah. Sorry, man. When I'm sharing and all that, it takes me a long time to bring me back to the main chat and hop on my mic. So my apologies.
I know you good, and all I ask is everyone share, and share into at least share on Clubhouse, 4 times the room. Alright, and once I'm done with my 4th share, I'm going to start. So if anybody got anything they want to share before I start?
I'm good. And I pinned the link up to our site, just in case anybody's interested. And also,
Alright, can y'all hear me?
yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
I bet then. So we didn't got the premise how the Satan works in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. So now we finna get ready to actually start the lesson now. I'm pinging one more time until I hit the red. All right, there we go. All righty. So what we're doing, we're talking about how this stuff actually started, how the understanding of the Bible, the biblical narrative, how it actually started. And we're going to search and go through the information left over by the ancient Jews on how they felt about this Satan character. Because once we go through the lesson, you guys might be shocked on what Satan, Hasatan, actually represents. So, we're going to go to Genesis 3 and 1. I'm going to read it out of the Complete Jewish Study Bible first, and then I'm going to read it out of the Orthodox Study Bible. And if you guys can, please ping Sharp Spirit also. So this is Genesis 3 and 1. This is what it states. Now, the serpent was more crafty than any wild animal which Adonai, God, had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you are not to eat from any tree in the garden?" All right, I'm going to skip down to 13 through 15 now. It states, Adonai, God, said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman answered, "The serpent tricked me, so I ate." Adonai, God, said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust as long as you live. I will put animosity between you and the woman, between your descendant and her descendant. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel." All right. So now, let's go into the Orthodox Study Bible, and we're going to read the same things from that. All right, so this is Genesis 3. And 1. Now the serpent was more cunning than all the wild animals the Lord God made on the earth. And he said to the woman, "Has God indeed said, 'You shall not eat from every tree of the garden'?" So we can see here the serpent does not have a problem addressing the woman. Alrighty, so this is 13 now, 13 through 15. So the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me and I ate." Thus the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle and more than all the wild animals of the earth. On your breast and belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall be on guard for his heel." Now, the question that should be asked first: why did the Lord not talk to the serpent and ask the serpent why he deceived Eve? The Lord had a conversation with Adam, had a conversation with Eve, but as soon as it came down to the serpent was automatically given a judgment. So, it's like the serpent knew better. It's like the serpent, it's like the Lord, who's a righteous judge. He judged the serpent based off of some criteria, because we know when there is no law, there is no transgression, right? With no law, there is no judgment. So, how was the serpent able to be judged if there was not something implemented that the serpent already knew? So now, we take this serpent right here to represent an emblem of pleasure. It represents pleasure in the Genesis narrative. But, as we stated before, as time progressed, understanding evolves also. So now, this serpent eventually takes more of a carnal shape. It takes more of a fleshly, realistic shape. So now, let me give you the premise of what's going on in the Bible. We got Adam and Eve, right? We got the Garden of Eden and etc. We got this narrative. We know that this narrative is symbolic to what happens in the inward man. But the way the Lord let it play out, he took the understanding, or he provided Moses with his understanding, and he gave it a real life scenario. So, let me give you an example. So the Garden of Eden represents more of a mindset. But he let it play out by letting the Garden of Eden have a replica. And what was the replica of the Garden of Eden? The Promised Land. The Promised Land that Israel got was a replica of the Garden of Eden. It was a shadow of the Garden of Eden. So now they have a replica on how these things are supposed to work. So if the Promised Land, well, let me say this. The Promised Land was a replica of Eden. The temple was a replica of the Garden of Eden. So that's why when you look at the designs on the temple, it looks just like the designs Moses explained dealing with the Garden of Eden. You got the cherubim, you got the palm trees, and etc. embroidered on the curtains of the temple or the tabernacle. Well, it's on the tabernacle first, later the temple. So the temple represented the Garden of Eden. Inside of the Garden of Eden, you had the temple, you had the priest, the high priest, and etc. So you can see the shadow. The replica is happening through Israel. Israel is playing out this scenario of what Genesis is talking about. Now, the important part about that is, this is a prophecy. The prophecy of the enmity, the animosity between the woman's seed and the serpent's seed. The woman's descendant and the serpent's descendant. That enmity. And then the bruising of the head of the serpent, and the man guarding his heel against the serpent, and etc. All of these things get played out inside of Jerusalem. Why would it get played out inside of Jerusalem? Because Jerusalem was the landmark where the temple was at. So that would represent the space that the Garden of Eden is in. So when Genesis 3 occur, this conversation is happening within inside of the Garden of Eden. And he's explaining what's going to happen in the last days. So now, once you want to see the replica of the story being played out, then you go into the last days of the Bible to find out how these things are played out. So now, what you have to do, you have to find out which individuals in the New Testament represent the characters of this inside of the Garden of Eden. So what am I meaning by that? That means that there's a woman's seed inside, or the woman's descendants inside of the Garden of Eden. You have to find out who they are inside of the land of Canaan. There's a serpent seed inside of the Garden of Eden. You have to find out who that is inside of the land of Canaan. There's an Adam inside of the Garden of Eden. You have to find out who that is inside of the land of Canaan. There's an Eve inside of the Garden of Eden. You have to find out who that represents inside of the land of Canaan. So, before I continue, those on the panel, is it making sense what I am saying? Is that making sense?
Crystal clear, sir.
Okay, then I'll just try to make sure that it's making sense so far. So, what you're doing it's like substitution. You're substituting characters to find out, okay, this is what Moses was saying was going to happen in the last days. He's speaking allegorical. So now let me find out some of these characters. Let's find out who these allegorical characters represent. All right, so now people can say, hey, brother, I don't see that inside of what you're talking about. So you might be bugging. So we're gonna surf through Israelite documentation. So I have something on here called the Dead Sea Scrolls, translated with commentary by Michael Wise, Martin Abegg, and Edward Cook, a new translation. So the Dead Sea Scrolls have a column called Charter for Israel in the last days. It's 1QSA, 1Q28A, 4Q249A through I. So, it's no need to argue about when the last days were to Israel if they literally have it in the Dead Sea Scrolls when what events was going to occur during the last days. The literal name is Charter for Israel in the last days. So, there's no need to argue whether or not if we're living in the last days in the 21st century, if the information provided in this Charter for Israel in the last days is not about what's happening in the 21st century. And you guys know we take the position as what they label full preterists, what we label as Bible believers, that the last days of Israel was what the New Testament was talking about inside of the days the New Testament was composed. So we take the last days to be the first century. So the point of this is not to argue when the last days was, it's to show how the understanding of Satan evolved and what became the substitution for Satan in the first century. Because people today, they say that we can't be in this kingdom because Satan is still ruling. Satan is running amok. Look at all of these evil spirits and etc. So what we're going to do, we're going to show who Satan was in the first century and see if your Satan is the same thing as the biblical Satan. So this is what we're finna do right now. So the last days commentary. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls on the hard copy. This is going to be found on page 256. So let me go to 256. And this is the last days of commentary on the selected verses. This is going to be column 3. And my bad, I gave the wrong column selection. For this one is 4Q174. 4Q174. So you can look it up on your own time. So I'm going to read column 3. This is what it states. It says, no enemy. Remember, y'all, this is Zadok priests. These are Israelites, mainly from the southern kingdom, tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi. This is around their time period, but this is their information in the BC era. This is before AD came. This is before Christ physically walked the earth and the disciples and etc. This is the BC era. So it says, no enemy shall overtake them again, nor evildoer afflict them anymore, as formerly, from the time that I appointed judges over my people Israel. So 2 Samuel 7:10 through 11. This place is the house that they shall build for him in the last days. As it is written in the book of Moses, a temple of the Lord are you to prepare with your hands. The Lord will reign forever and ever. Exodus 15:17 through 18. Now they finna explain from their point of view what they believe this verse meant, or these verses meant to them. So we don't need our commentary or the commentaries from the scholars, because they are the Zadok priests is finna tell you what they believe it meant. So it says, this passage describes the temple that no man with a permanent fleshly defect shall enter, nor an Ammonite, Moabite, bastard, foreigner, or alien forevermore. Surely his holiness shall be revealed there. Eternal glory shall ever be apparent there. Strangers shall not again defile it, as they formerly defiled the temple of Israel through their sins. To that end, he has commanded that they build him a temple of Adam, or a temple of humankind, and that in it they sacrifice to him proper sacrifices. All right, so here we finna go right here. And as for what he said to David, I will give you rest from all your enemies, 2 Samuel 7:11. This passage means that he will give them rest from all the children of Belial who caused them to stumble, seeking to destroy them by means of their wickedness. So let me read that again. So they're looking, so you can clearly see that they're looking at these Old Testament prophets. First they started in Torah, then we ended up in 2 Samuel, and they're saying that what you are reading is a prophecy about the last days. And they're going, so first of all, if you don't know how they viewed their scriptures, you're going to be lost in the first place. Did anyone ever look at 2 Samuel 7:11 and say, hey, this passage that he's talking about right here is actually referring to something that was going to happen in the last days of Israel? I don't know the one who has done that yet. This is why you have to look at their information to see how they perceive their scriptures. Okay, so now, as for what he said to David, I will give you rest from all your enemies. This passage means he will give them rest. So you see how it went from he's talking to David, now he's talking to a corporate body. It looked like he was talking to a solo individual, David, but the way that it's actually spelled, the meaning behind it is he's actually talking to a corporate body. So he says this passage means, so this is the interpretation. This passage means that he will give them rest from all the children of Belial. So now, if you don't know who Belial is, it's just another name for Satan, another name for the serpent and the devil. But the point is, they was actually going to receive rest from the children of Belial. That's who their enemies were, who caused them to stumble, seeking to destroy them by means of their wickedness. They became party to the plan of Belial in order to cause the sons of light to stumble. They plotted wicked schemes against them so that they might fall prey to Belial through guilty error. Remember, this is something that was supposed to happen in the last days. Moreover, the Lord declares to you that he will make you a house, and that I will raise up your offspring after you and establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be a father to him, and he will be my son. This passage refers to the shoot of David, who is to arise with the interpreter of the law, and who will arise in Zion in the last days, as it is written, and I shall raise up the boot of David that is fallen. That's Amos 9:11. This passage describes the fallen branch of David, whom he shall raise up to deliver Israel. So to them, the fallen, that boot of David that has fallen, this actually represents an individual. And that individual was going to raise up and deliver Israel. So hopefully we can clearly see that that's talking about the Messiah. But the point is, the same children of the serpent mentioned in Genesis 3 is the same children of Belial mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls, who was supposed to make the sons of light to stumble through means of their wickedness and schemes. So we have an introduction that in the last days, the children of Belial was going to do this against the sons of light. So Genesis 3 is a last days prophecy, as well as the Dead Sea Scrolls is talking about the last day prophecy on how the children was going to get rest from their enemies who were the children of Belial. You got to think closely of what's being said here, everyone. Think closely of what was supposed to be accomplished. The children of Belial was supposed to be taken away from the children of light. They are looking, let me say this again, their goal is for the children of Belial, the serpent seed, to be taken away, allowing the sons of light to remain. That was the promise, that was the goal, that's what they were looking for. Ask yourself, is that what you are looking for in the 21st century? Because the last days we have it documented what they were looking for. And they were looking for rest from the children of Belial. Rest from the serpent seed. Is the serpent seed the children of Satan? Do they have any influence over you today? And are you praying from rest from them? Because if you're not, then what you're looking for and what Israel was looking for is totally different. So now, let me show you what that looked like in more of the ancient Israelite documentation. So we're going to find out who these children of Belial, these children of Satan, we're going to find out exactly who they were. So before I continue, does anyone on the panel or in the audience have anything they want to say or add to it before I move on to the next point? Am I still picking up?
Yep. Yeah, picking up, man. I just what I'm hearing too.
Definitely see the foundation you're laying, so excited to see how you can build upon it.
All right, and if anybody in the audience have anything to say, all they have to do is raise their hand. We have a different means and mode. So once you raise your hand, you're going to receive a message in your back chat. That will be your message bar. You're going to receive a message from one of the moderators, and they will actually tell you, they will introduce the next step and etc. to you. And they're going to ask you a question. So don't be alarmed. All right, so now let's continue on. We're going to go to... Hold on, my phone just... All right. Am I still picking up? All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to First Enoch now. I know a lot of people. Enoch, that's the giant skyscrapers, angels having sex with people. This is all that sci-fi stuff. No, y'all, all of that was parabolic in nature. So let's get over that right now. The Jews wrote First Enoch. This is their writings. They're telling you what they believe with their writings. They tell you that their writings are parabolic. So if you say it's sci-fi and they're telling you that you're supposed to be reading it in the parabolic nature, then you have the problem. They don't. They're explaining to you what it means. It's all parabolic in nature. So now, I want to go to 1 Enoch chapter 69. I'm going to read verses 31 through 32. Remember, with the vision of Israel being God's people, the vision of ancient Israel, not American Jews or Chinese Jews in the 21st century, not the Jewish man in the 21st century, none of that. The vision of ancient Israel, who was living these things out, their vision was, when do the children of Belial finally get destroyed for the sons of light to flourish? That's what they was looking for. So now, 1 Enoch 69, I'm going to read 31 through 32. It states, well, I start at 30. And there was a great joy amongst them, and they blessed and glorified and extolled, because the name of that Son of Man had been revealed unto them. And he sat on the throne of his glory, and the sum of judgment was given unto the Son of Man. And he caused the sinners to pass away and be destroyed from off the face of the earth, and those who have led the world astray. So, in the apocalyptic literature of the book of Enoch, the goal was the Son of Man has the judgment seat, and when he gets the judgment seat, he causes all the sinners to pass away from the earth or the land, because they was the one who led the world astray. So all sinners pass away off the face of the earth. Same thing that the Dead Sea Scrolls said that they was looking for. The children of Belial, who had all these wicked schemes, they was going to come to their end. So now, let's look at Enoch 107, and I'm just going to read verse 1. It states, and I saw written on them that generation upon generation shall transgress, until a generation of righteousness arises, and transgression is destroyed, and sin passes away from the earth, and all manner of good comes upon it. So we're seeing now, apocalyptic literature, what was they waiting on? Now they're waiting on a certain generation of righteousness was going to arise. There was going to be a plethora of generation of transgressors. This generation transgressed. That generation transgressed. That generation transgressed. And it was going to continue until finally a righteous generation would come forth. And in that righteous generation, then transgression was going to be destroyed and sin was going to pass away. So I believe if we are new covenant followers, we would see which generation actually came. There was a generation of righteousness, and that allowed the increase of the kingdom to come, and transgression to finally be taken away, and for sin to pass away from the earth. If we are New Testament followers, we would be able to find it in the New Testament. Okay, I got you, sweetie. All right, chapter 108. Let's read verses 1 through 3 now. It says, another book which Enoch wrote for his son Methuselah, and for those who would come after him, and keep the law in the last days. So this is another last days thing. Ye who have done good shall wait for those days until an end is made of those who work evil, and an end of the might of the transgressors. Let's say it again. What are they looking for? Apocalyptic literature, Enoch. Ye who have done good shall wait for those days. So according to the Jews, this is something that Enoch was waiting on. And in fact, when this book was written in the BC era, they still was waiting on this righteous generation. This generation that was going to come, that was going to be righteous. And in that generation, it said an end was going to be made to those who work evil. In that generation, the ones that worked evil in that generation was going to be put to an end, and an end of the might of the transgressors. So we're dealing with a specific generation when all of these things were going to happen. So let's keep reading verse 3. And wait ye indeed until sin has passed away, for their names shall be blotted out of the book of life and out of the holy books, and their seed shall be destroyed forever, and their spirit shall be slain, and they shall cry and make lamentation in a place that is a chaotic wilderness, and in a fire shall they burn. For there is no earth there. And you can actually read, this is similar to the language found inside of the book of Revelation. All right, so now, let's dibble-dabble into the book of Psalms real fast. Let's see here. The book of Psalms. 1 second. Alrighty. And now I'm going to be reading out of the Septuagint, the Britain, the older codex. So this is going to be Psalm 33. And I'm going to read verses 16 and 17. This is what it states. And it's 34 in the KJV, I believe. But anyway, it states this. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open to their supplication. The Lord's face is against those who do evil, so as to destroy their remembrance from the earth. So what is the Lord supposed to do? He's going to destroy the remembrance of the evil ones from the earth. So once again, we are seeing that there was an understanding that those who done wicked, those evil ones, those sons of Satan, those sons of Belial, were supposed to be destroyed from the face of the earth. They were supposed to be taken away from the righteous individuals. So now, let's look at the first century, because we're saying, I'm making the declaration that Genesis 3 was about what happened in the first century under the Roman Empire. I'm saying that when the Dead Sea Scrolls brought up the last days, they was talking about what was going to happen in the first century under the Roman Empire. When Enoch said all of his things about the last days, he was talking about what was going to happen first century under the Roman Empire. So now I'm going to go to some first century documentations left over by the Israelites and see what they had to say. First thing first, let's identify who the children of Satan are. Who's the children of Satan? Who's the sons of Belial? let's find out who they are before we continue on. Because people have a total misunderstanding what the Jews believe. You ask anybody what the Jews believe, what was going to happen, who was going to be destroyed, I bet you they keep bringing up other nations. I bet you they'll go to the book of Psalms and etc. They'll pull all of this stuff about other nations and how other nations are going to be judged and this and that was going to happen. And we know the wickedness of the other nations was going to be put under their feet and etc. And they was going to be on top of these other nations. Let's see who the culprits are according to the Israelite documentation. So once I go to, I'm going to go to John 8. And me and Brother Mike James hit on this the other night. So I'm going to go to John 8. And let's see here. Let me unplug that real fast. I want to see where I want to start at. I want to start at verse number 31. So this is John 8:31 from the New King James Version. It said, "Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed him." Let me start that again. This is for all my religious people, the people who love religion, who thinks that because I say I follow Christ and etc., I'm good, I'm straight, I know some laws and all this stuff, I'm straight. So, let's see how this works out. Then Jesus said to the Jews who believed him. So he's not going around talking to people who don't believe in him. He's not doing that. He's talking to, first of all, he's talking to Jews, his brethren, his countrymen. He's talking to Jews. And not only is he talking to Jews, he's talking to Jews that believed on him. So this is how the conversation goes. Then Jesus said to the Jews who believed him, "If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." They answered him, "We are Abraham's descendant, and have never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say you will be made free?" Who is Christ talking to? Jews that believed him. He's talking to the group that's believing him, that's following him. That's who he's talking to. He's not talking to no one from a different nation. He's not talking to these people who forgot who they were. He's not talking to people who did not like him. He's talking to Jews that actually believed him. And this is the conversation. And their rebuttal was, "We haven't been in bondage to anyone. We are Abraham's descendants." Verse 34, Jesus answered them, "Most assuredly, I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave of sin. And a slave does not abide in the house forever, but a son abides forever. Therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed." Verse 37, "I know that you are Abraham's descendants, but you seek to kill me, because my word has no place in you." He's talking to people that believed him. That's important to understand. He's talking to people that said they believed him. He's talking to people that was proud. We're Abraham's descendants. And Christ is saying the only way you guys are going to be free is if I make you free. And then he tells them the same thing they said. He said, "I know you are Abraham's descendant, but you seek to kill me. And because my word has no place in you." So they believed him, but his word was not taking root in them. This is what one of the lessons we were talking about last night was about. I speak what I have seen with my Father, and you do what you have seen with your father. So Christ, remember, this is the people that believed on Christ. These are the Christ followers. And he's telling them that they have a different father than he has. He said, I speak what I have seen with my father, and you do what you have seen with your father. So Christ said, I'm speaking the truth. I speak the truth, but what you have seen, what you are used to doing, the way that you behave, you are taking the actions of your father. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. You see how they keep trying to pull the Abraham card? They keep trying to run to that bloodline, that nationality, which don't mean a hill of beans. Let's see what's going on. Jesus said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. So he's saying all of that word of mouth that you're using, all of that mouth language, oh, I'm a Christ follower. I know the Bible. I do this, I do that. That don't mean a hill of beans. It's about the works that you produce. Verse 40, but now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. Abraham did not do this. You do the deeds of your father. Then they said to him, we were not born of fornication. We have one Father, God. So y'all see what he just did right there? Y'all see how they try to change it? First, Abraham was their father, right? We're the children of Abraham. Now Christ is hitting them with them haymakers. Shout out to Mike. He hitting them with them haymakers, and now the rebuttal changes. Now they're going to invoke the Father God. So first, Abraham's father. Now God is our Father. Verse 42. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, you would love me. So you see how first they said Abraham was our father. He said, if Abraham was your father, you would do this, and this. So now they're like, well, we're not in fornication. God's our father. So now Christ said, okay, if God was your father, you would do this, and this. So now he says, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Nor have I come of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Because you are not able to listen to my word. Imagine this, you sitting there and you believe a person and you think that you're walking hand in hand with a person, just to come to find out the person that you walking hand in hand with and you believe on and etc. tells you, you have no idea who I am. You have no idea how I have been talking to you, what I've been said. You are ignorant of everything I have presented to you. So this is the mindset that they are in right now. They believe Christ. And, they're thinking everything is good and dandy because they believe him and they're walking with him and etc. But he's bursting their bubble. He's telling them, I know your heart. I know the truth. So now he says, why do you not understand my speech? Because you are not able to listen to my word. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. So we shouldn't dispute at all who the sons of the serpent, the sons of Belial, was in Genesis 3, in the commentary of the Jews, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in First Enoch. We should not argue who the sons of Satan were. The sons of Satan were the Jews. It's a hard pill to swallow. You can swallow. In fact, let me get a little water too. In the first century, when this Edenic story is playing out in the replica Eden, the serpent seed were the children of Israel. Here it's the Jews. But let's show why it was the Jews. So once again, we're going to find out when people talk about Satan and they're going through the New Testament and they're reading all this documentation about Satan and they want him to be this spirit that's sitting on the throne that has all these little entities up under him, and he has just as much power as the Lord. He's everywhere. He's all powerful, and etc. Let's clearly see who the devil was in the New Testament. So now, they are of the father, the devil. You remember when Christ said he was the Son of God? They said, oh, they got all destroyed. He's making himself equal to God. So if you are a son to them, you are equal to your father. He said he's the Son of God. He's making himself equal to God. So if they were the sons of the devil, guess who they were equal to? If they was the sons of Satan, guess who they were equal to? If they was the son of Belial or Beliar, guess who they was equal to? Let's go. Let's find out. So now, I want to read John 19. Let's see here. I'm going to read verses 14 through 16. Let's look at what our brothers was doing in the first century, and let's see if they, in fact, could have been called and considered the Satans or the sons of Satan. Let's see. Do I want to start? Yeah, I'll start here. John 19, 14 through 16. Now it was the preparation day of the Passover. Hello, is anybody saying something? Hello?
Nah, nobody was saying that.
Okay, bet. All right, I'm gonna read these few passages and I'm gonna open it up to see if anyone want to add anything before I continue. All right, John 19, 14 through 16. Now it was the preparation day of the Passover, and about the 6th hour, and he said to the Jews, "Behold, your king." But they cried out. Who is the they? The Jews. So can we put this on other nations? Can we put this on an entity? Why isn't no one blaming Satan here? Why isn't anyone saying Satan was doing all of these things? No, it was the Jews. And who were the Jews? The son of who? Whose workings were they doing? Remember? They was doing their father's working, who was a murderer from the beginning. And Brother Mike Haymaker has already done a lesson on this also. How that murder looked like, what the murder looked like in the beginning. Check out his page. It's F Wisdom, Snake Fighting Wisdom on YouTube. But now it was the preparation day of the Passover, about the 6th hour, and he said to the Jews, "Behold your king." But they cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" Listen to the conversation. They're saying, "Kill him, kill him." He said, "Shall I kill your king?" The chief priests answered. These are the ones that's doing the service in the temple. The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." Then he delivered him to them to be crucified. Then they took Jesus and led him away. Now, doesn't that not sound like something maybe a son of Satan would do? Does this seem like if their father was a murderer from the beginning, does this seem like something a son, a child of Satan would do? All right, let's go to Matthew. Let's go to Matthew 27. Matthew 27. Let's look at verses 22 through 26. Pilate said to them, "What then shall I do with Jesus, who was called Christ?" They all said to him, "Let him be crucified." Then the governor said, "Why? What evil thing has he done?" Now, does it seem like Pilate is being Satan here? Is he acting like a Hasatan right here? Is he seeming like a son of Satan when he's asking them, what evil thing has this man done? When we read the book of Genesis 3, when it said that there was going to be animosity between the woman's descendant, the woman's seed, and the serpent's descendant, the serpent seed, does it seem like Pilate in this situation is representing the serpent seed? Let's keep reading from what the Jews wrote happened. It said, "But they cried out all the more, saying, 'Let him be crucified.' When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, he's trying to prevail? Hold on, he's trying to prevail? He's trying to get away from this crucifixion? Is that what's going on? But rather that a tumult was rising. Hold on, so they're getting upset. They're ready to riot. Which one of these are seeming like Satan here? Let's keep going. He took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, 'I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it.' And all the people answered and said, 'His blood be on us and on our children.' Then he released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified." Now he's making sure Jesus get punished also with the scourging, and now he's delivering them over to the Jews. Now does it seem like he walked into the ways of Satan here after the scourging? Or is that something that Rome did to everybody? But who was screaming and about to riot, saying, "Crucify him, kill him, let's get him out of here"? Let's find out who the children of Satan were inside the first century. If we are doing a replica of the Garden of Eden and Satan stuck his head up to deceive the woman, let's see in the first century who indeed played the role of Satan. All right, so now I'll open it up. If anybody got anything they want to say before I move on to my next point, this is the time. Once again, thank everyone in the audience for listening in. If you have not subscribed, follow everyone on stage. So if anybody got anything to say, please raise your hand and etc. And anybody on the stage got anything to say?
Yeah, just enjoying it. Great breakdown, brother.
I got you, brother. Alrighty, I will continue on, and I got your message, Brother Mike. I will continue on. So now, that's what was going on in the first century, around, 30-something AD? Well, let's just see, before we continue on, what's happening inside of the way, the community of the way. I don't want to say religious community, but inside of that community of Christ followers, that was happening inside of their community, right? These are the people, these are the Torah following Jews who knew about the prophecy of the Messiah. They were not dumb about the Messiah presence, because you can read, in fact, before I continue on, let's show you how these individuals in Jerusalem had no excuse. Let's show how they were not ignorant of the Messiah being alive in that time period. So even if they did not know that he was the Messiah, let me show you how ignorant they were not about the Messiah actually being alive during that time. You go to Matthew chapter 2, verse number 1. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, where is he who was born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Hold on. So you mean to tell me that they knew the Messiah, it was plausible the Messiah was living around that time period, and they took no precautions to try to find out and test who this Messiah was? And we know many Messiahs was around during that time period. This is why Christ was able to say that. And the reason is, we see the backdrop right here. They knew the Messiah was born. They knew that he existed. My quarrel with that is, instead of trying to kill a person who could be the Messiah, why not put him to test, since you know the Messiah is around, and every Messiah we done had within this time period has been put to death anyway for their actions. So now we finally have a peaceful man who's doing all of these miracles and etc., saying he's the Messiah. Oh, let's kill him. So that's my quarrel with the ignorance of the first century. But let me continue on. So we have it in the Bible, what's happening in the way. But let's also see this same generation of people. Let's go into history real fast. I want to go into Josephus, War of the Jews, Book 6, chapter 8, section 5, lines 406 through 408, found on page 897 if you got the hard copy that I have. Okay, I'm going to read 406 through 408. It states, but although they had this commiseration for such as were destroyed in that manner, yet had they not the same for those that were still alive. But they ran every one through whom they met with, and obstructed the very lanes with their dead bodies, and made the whole city run down with blood, to such a degree, indeed, that the fire of many of the houses was quenched with these men's blood. Now, picture this. You inside of Jerusalem. It is a tumult going on inside of Jerusalem. You have your brothers, right? Your Torah following is so supposed to be Torah following brothers. They're going through the city, killing, raping, robbing, and etc. In fact, they have caused so much ruckus. They are going through the city, setting houses on fire. So you got all of this fire occurring, all of this blaze occurring, and now the fires are being put out. Not by water, but by the amount of blood that's being shed and running throughout the city. So much blood flowing throughout the city that the fires in the houses were being quenched. That's a lot of blood. These are Israelites. This is Israel fighting Israel. This ain't the Romans. This is Israel fighting Israel in the first century. Who is the Satans in the first century that's causing the enmity between the followers of Christ? Let's keep reading. That the houses was quenched with these men's blood. And truly so it happened, that though the slayers left off at the evening, yet did the fire greatly prevail in the night. And as was the burning, came the 8th day of the month, Gorpius, Elul, upon Jerusalem, a city that had been liable to so many miseries during the siege, that had it always enjoyed as much happiness from its first foundation, it would have certainly have been the envy of the world. Nor did it on any other account so much deserve the sore miseries as by producing such a generation of men as were the occasions of this its overthrow. So this generation of man, according to the priest Josephus, was so wicked that it was due justice from the Lord that the Romans came in and destroyed them. Once again, the wicked people that was going through killing, raping, robbing, that had so much blood pouring out that it was quenching the houses that was on fire. You guys, we haven't experienced nothing like this, even in slavery, or the records they have. We haven't experienced nothing like this, that your own countrymen was acting so savagely against you, your household, your lineage. They cared nothing about Torah. They didn't care nothing about the way or none of this stuff. So the same generation of men that was yelling, crucify him, kill him, destroy him, the same generation of men that did that to the Messiah is the same generation of men that did this to Jerusalem. So now, when they are praying for the wickedness to leave from the righteousness, do you think they're thinking about the things that's happening in the 21st century in our timeline? Or do you think they're thinking all of the wicked men in their timeline needed to be taken away and destroyed for the things they did to the Messiah and their own countrymen? Who would be the Satan that was running around deceiving people and killing people? Who would be the Satan? All right, let's continue now. Let's go to the book of Romans. Sorry. Book of Romans, let's see here, 16, I'm going to read 17 through 20. It states, now I urge you, brethren, note those who cause divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which you learn, and avoid them. So now, we got Paul standing up. He's talking to those in Rome, dealing with the churches in Rome, right? He's telling them, brethren, the people that's causing divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which you have already learned, avoid them. So they are to avoid the people that cause divisions and offenses. Verse 18. For those who are such do not serve the Lord Jesus Christ, but their own belly, and by smooth words and flattering speech deceive the hearts of the simple. So, in the Garden of Eden, the serpent was deceiving Eve by what? The lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. This is why they use the fruit analogy to do with the lust of the flesh. She was serving her own belly through the lust of the flesh that she gave over into. So now, Paul is saying these individuals inside of the community, they are the deceivers. So now, they are the ones that's acting like the serpent. They are deceiving with flattering speech. They do not serve the Lord, but their own bellies. Verse 19. For your obedience has become known to all. Therefore I am glad on your behalf. But I want you to be wise in what is good and simple concerning evil. See, the people was causing these divisions. They was bringing in these heresies. They was trying to make people leave the way. So now Paul is saying, stay away from those people. They are serpents. They are deceivers. I want you guys to know the simple things concerning evil. And that the God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you. Amen. So, who is the Satan right there that was going to be crushed shortly? Did he just go from talking about what the men were doing, and then suddenly he jumped into this invisible, powerful entity that no one knows about? He's invisible, and he's walking around doing all this chaos and etc. Who is the Satan that was going to be crushed under their foot, which is an allusion to the Satan in Genesis 3, who was going to try to bruise the heel of man? Who is that Satan that was going to be crushed under the heel that he was trying to bruise? Was it this mystical character, or was it these individuals that came in with these different doctrines that caused divisions and offenses by deceiving the hearts of the simple people with flattering speeches because they served their own bellies? Which one of them would have been considered the Satans? So let's continue. Matthew 24, I'm going to read 4 and 5. And Jesus answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. These are people. Verse 11. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. These are people. Verse 23 through 24. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. You see how this is all about deception. Deception, deception, deception. Paul was talking about deception. Who did the deceiving in the beginning? Let's see here. It says, Genesis 3, verse 13. The Lord God said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me and I ate. So, who is the serpent in the replica Garden of Eden, which is found in Jerusalem? Who is doing the deceiving? So now, once we go to Matthew 23, I'm going to read 31 through 33. Matthew 23, 31. It says, well, I can start at 29. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. So you know who he's talking to, the Pharisees and hypocrites. Verse 31. Therefore you are witnesses against yourselves, that you are the sons of those who murdered the prophets. Now, did Christ not already state that they are of their father, the devil, who was a murderer from the beginning? And now we have here the same Christ speaking to the same Jews, saying, you are of your son, you are yourselves are the sons of those who murdered the prophets. So who would be the Satan here? Who would be the serpent? But just in case, let's keep reading. Fill up then the measure of your father's guilt. Serpents, brood of vipers, how can you escape the condemnation of hell? And I bet you, if you go inside the book of Revelation, you will see the serpent being thrown into the lake of fire. Fill up then the measure of your father's guilt, serpents, brood of vipers. How can you escape the condemnation of hell? So who is Christ calling the serpents? Okay, let's go to Matthew 3 and 7. Matthew 3, verse 7. But when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to his baptism, he said to them, brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the wrath to come? So John the Baptist is calling the Pharisees and Sadducees the brood of vipers, talking about the wrath to come. And Christ is talking to the Pharisees and what he called, let me get here, the hypocrites, the scribes and Pharisees, the hypocrites. He called them also the brood of vipers, the serpents. How are they going to escape the condemnation of hell, which is the same thing that John the Baptist said about the wrath? So we have it's very fluent who indeed the Satan was in the New Testament, who the sons of Satan were in the New Testament. Now let me try to hurry up and finish this out. I don't want you guys to get too bored, so let me hurry up and finish this out. Let's just go look at some of the actions of the Jews, right? Let's just look at some of their actions. Acts 4, let's read 1 through 3. Now, as they spoke to the people, the priest, the captain of the temple, and the Sadducees came unto them, being greatly disturbed that they taught the people and preached in Jesus the resurrection from the dead. And they laid hands on them and put them in custody until the next day, for it was already evening. Let's read 5 through 7. And it came to pass on the next day that their rulers, elders, and scribes, as well as Annas the high priest, Caiaphas, John, and Alexander, and as many as were of the family of the high priest, were gathered together at Jerusalem. And when they had set them in the midst, they asked, by what power or by what name have you done this? So you have all right here of the high priest and the family of the high priest and all of these Jews and etc. trying to get Peter and his followers to stop. Well, you got Peter and John to stop teaching in the name of the Messiah, in the name of Jesus, and etc. right here, right? But they wasn't having it. So you go to Acts 5, let's read 17 through 19. Then the high priest rose up, and all those that were with him, which is the sect of the Sadducees, and they were filled with indignation, and laid their hands on the apostles, and put them in the common prison. Let's read 26. Then the captain went with the officers, and brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should be stoned. So why did they not do any? Why did they not use violence against them? Because now they're fearing the people. That's the only reason why. 32 and 33. And we are his witnesses to those, and so also to the Holy Spirit, whom God has given to those who obey him. When they heard this, they were furious and plotted to kill them. Who seems like Satan here? All right, 40. And they agreed with him. And when they had called for the apostles and beaten them, they commanded that they should not speak in the name of Jesus and let them go. Who seems like Satan in that aspect? We go to Acts 7. Let me read 1 and 2. Then the high priest said, "Are these things so?" And he said, "Brethren and fathers, listen. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia before he dwelt in Haran." So you got Stephen talking to who? The high priest, as well as those that was around the high priest, like in that royal family and etc. So Stephen is talking to them, right? Verse 57 and 58. Let's see how they act. Let's see how the Jews act. They then cried out with a loud voice, stopped their ears, and ran at him with one accord. And they cast him out of the city and stoned him. And the witnesses laid down their clothes at the feet of a young man named Saul. So they just killed Stephen, right? For representing Christ. Acts 9, 1 and 2. And y'all, I promise I'm about done. Acts 9, 1 and 2. Then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus, so that if he found any who were of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. See, the high priest is calling the shots and etc., right? This is all dealing with the Jews. This is all what the Jews are doing to their countrymen. Acts 12, 1 through 4. Now, about that time, Herod the king stretched out his hand to harass some from the church. Then he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And because he saw that it pleased the Jews, sorry about that, y'all. He saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to seize Peter also. Now it was during the days of unleavened bread. So when he had arrested him, he put him in prison and delivered him to the 4 squads of soldiers to keep him, intending to bring him before the people after the Passover. All right. So once we reach 1 Peter, because you remember Paul was like, the time is getting soon where the head of Satan was going to be crushed under their feet, right? So you go to 1 Peter. First Peter 4, 17. He states, "For the time has come for judgment to begin at the house of God. And if it begins with us first, what will be the end of those who do not obey the gospel of God?" So Peter is letting it be known that now, during the first century, judgment was going to begin. And it was going to begin at the house of God. Judgment was going to begin in the replica of the Garden of Eden. Because who had to be taken out? Satan. The serpent had to be taken out. So now, this is where I finna end it. I'm going to go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'm going to read the commentary of Habakkuk, 1 QP HAB. This is column 2. This is column 2. It says, now this is talking about Habakkuk. This is how the those in the Dead Sea Scroll community viewed. It's called a pesher, but this is how they viewed their scriptures. So this is about what they viewed coming out of Habakkuk. This is column 2. Look, traitors, and see, and be shocked and amazed. For the Lord is doing something in your time that you would not believe if it was told. This is 1 and 5. This passage refers to the traitors with the men of the lie, because they have not obeyed the word of the teacher of righteousness from the mouth of God. It also refers to the traitors to the new covenant, because they did not believe in God's covenant and desecrated his holy name. And finally, you see how it got three different things they made deal with this one passage. And finally, it refers to the traitors in the last days. They are the cruel Israelites who will not believe when they hear everything that is to come upon the latter generation that will be spoken by the priest, in whose heart God put the ability to explain all the words of his servants the prophet, through whom God has foretold everything that is to come upon his people and the Gentiles. So we clearly have Israel saying that Israel were the wicked ones, and a priest was going to come and explain to them all of the things that was going to befall them, and they still was not going to believe. And let's see if I can find one more before I call it a night. All right, so now this is column 10. Now column 11. I'm going to start at 14 and 15, which is Habakkuk 2 and 14. The earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord's glory as water covered the sea. This means that when they repent, then you got the dots, spreader of, you got the dots. So this is column 11. Lies, and afterwards true knowledge will be revealed to them as water of the sea for abundance. Woe to the ones who gets his friend drunk, pouring out his anger, making him drink, just to go a look at their holy days. 2 and 15. This refers to the wicked priest who pursue the teacher of righteousness to destroy him in the heat of his anger at his place of exile, at that time set aside for the repose of the Day of Atonement. He appeared to them to destroy them and to bring them to ruin on the fast day, the Sabbath intended for their repose. So you clearly have it here that the wicked priest was a subject for judgment, as well as the cruel Israelites was a subject for judgment. So you clearly see who Israel was waiting on to be taken out of the way. They were not waiting on anybody from all these other nations that people are teaching to come and kiss on their feet and all that stuff. We clearly have it. We clearly read it time and time again that Israel was waiting on wicked Israel to be taken out of the way. And when wicked Israel was taken out of the way, righteous Israel could stand in their stead and continue to live and flourish forever. My last verse will be coming out of Luke 21, 20 through 24, to show the end or the consummation of this first century narrative when Satan was going to be taken away and off the land, when Satan was going to be taken away off the land, and the real Israelites of the promise was going to be there to stay. Luke 21 verse 20. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. So we have a fleeing to freedom from the people that listen to Christ. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter her. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So that's the fulfillment of all prophecies right there. Verse 23, woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. For there will be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people. So the people, the land, this would be who is receiving the wrath in the land. Is it the people that fled into the mountains, or is it these people? Verse 24, and they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captives into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So we have people fleeing into the mountains. We have people being led away captive. We have people fleeing from destruction, and we have people who's gaining all of the vengeance. So it's up to you to decide who Satan was at this time period. Did Satan receive the vengeance when all things was going to be fulfilled, or did Satan flee into the mountains? So is the Satan that you believe in the same Satan that the first century individuals in Judea believed in? Are your Satans equal or different? Thank you all for listening in. This is Elvin Israel from the Assembly of Sound Doctrine Chandler, as well as www.garden-ministries.com, where we have the PDF of our book available also. You can check out our channel, rpk-resurrection, Prophecy and Kingdom, as well as our mentors page, All Things Fulfilled. Am I still picking up? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then you can check Amazon for our book, The Circumcision and Uncircumcision of Genesis 1, Ministries of the Garden Revealed, written by my brother Mike Israel, as well as myself. Thank you all for listening in. This is the time that we open it. If anyone got anything to say, and if we don't, or when we're done, we pray out. Thank you all for listening in. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for listening in. This is Elvin Israel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and etc. Once again, I'll talk to you.